What's going on, guys? It's K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a wonderful day today. Now, I can completely understand if you are bored out of your mind. For the most part, Bitcoin has just been trading within this range between around $18,400 and roughly $24,000 pretty much since the beginning of the summer. So I can understand why this can be boring. Now, I want to tell you that I am anticipating a very big move for Bitcoin very soon, and I am going to go into that. So you are going to want to pay attention if you are looking to trade. But outside of trading Bitcoin, what I really wanted to do was offer some perspective, because there are a lot of people right now that are very fearful. They're very worried about what the Fed is going to do, if these rates are going to send us into a recession, and whether or not Bitcoin is due for yet another 50% crash down to some crazy levels like 10,000, or some people have even been saying 3,000, right? And that can be pretty scary considering this global economic meltdown. But what we're truly seeing is something referred to as a sovereign debt crisis. And I do want to offer some perspective into that. I want to talk about why Bitcoin is actually going to shock the world. If you guys watch this video that I made right here in Dubai, what I was talking about is how all over the world we are seeing people embracing Bitcoin. They had their first spot ETP listed over in the UAE. And the Middle East, I can tell you, after spending a week there, they are very interested in Bitcoin, and there is a lot of adoption pretty much happening around the world. So I'm going to explain to you why I believe that Bitcoin is going to shock the world, and we're entering a new paradigm, right? And Bitcoin is going to be at the center of it. Whether or not people realize it, it's going to come to a point where everyone is going to end up owning Bitcoin. And you may not believe me. You may think I'm crazy just because, I'm the crypto zombie, right? And of course you would say that, but I'm going to tell you guys, when we get through this, and we will get through this bear market, and honestly, the worst part is really this boring sideways consolidation, we are going to see a Fed pivot at some point. In fact, I believe that the Fed is going to start backing down as soon as December. So if you can just stick it out for a few months, you may start to see that tail end. And also right now is a phenomenal opportunity for accumulation. But what I also want to do is talk about this guy right here, Lawrence Lepard. Now, you may have never heard of him before. He's an investment manager, equity management associate, LLC. He lived through all the things you can imagine, the dot-com booms and busts and all that. And by the way, he did short the 2008 financial crisis. So he's not inexperienced when it comes to these things. And you have to hear what this man came out and said in a recent interview. And I guarantee you his words are going to absolutely shock you. So make sure that you stick around to the end of this video. If you're having any sense of concern, any type of dread, that feeling of regret, maybe you bought Bitcoin too high and you think that this is it, you screwed up, we're going to go sideways for 10 years, we're never going to see a new all-time high. I'm hoping today that this video changes your mind. And if you do appreciate this type of content, definitely slap a like and make sure that you share this video with a friend, with a skeptic, or just come back and watch this in the event that you find yourself questioning or in fear of where these markets and regulations and rate hikes could take us. So if you guys do like this type of content, I love you guys. I will be putting out more of this, these types of videos in the future as we wait for Bitcoin to make a big move. So without further ado, guys, if you're not subscribed, definitely consider it. Of course, I do want to just touch on the charts super quick. I don't want to beat a dead horse here. Kind of boring, not much to talk about, but the main thing is we are going to be seeing some massive volatility. As you can see right here, the Bollinger Bands have not been this tight anywhere in this entire area. During this entire volatile move, we did not see anything this tight. And the last time we saw these bands at these levels, you can argue, was right back here in October, November, and December of 2020, and we know what happened. We went on a massive run. Now, am I saying that's what's going to happen today? No, not necessarily, but you guys could see that we have actually broken through this downward sloping trend right here, right? It was holding us down right here, right? We had this resistance, little bit of resistance here. And if I actually zoom in really, really, really close, I know this is hard to see because this is a bit of a very indecisive candle, but you can actually see we've broken through this right here, and we are attempting to break through this very psychological level of 19,800, which was the previous all-time high. Now, what has most investors scared is the fact that this is forming what is known as a descending triangle. Descending triangles are 50% biased to the bearish side, which means there's a 50% chance that this triangle breaks to the downside. Now, this move, as you guys can see right here, literally only has 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, maybe 6 more days, right? And we said that by the end of this week, we could see a big move. Now, if we do somehow fall out of this and come down to this area, well, then that could bring us to the absolute latest Monday or Tuesday of next week. Either way, I am anticipating some extreme volatility in the markets. And once we do start getting that volatility, whether it be to the upside or to the downside, there are going to be a lot of opportunities to be trading again. And for those of you who are looking to trade right now, there's honestly not much going on, but I will let you know once we get this move, once we go in a direction and we either hit the top or the bottom, then we can start putting in those trades, right? Because you can see right here, unfortunately, if we do break to the downside, then my theory of this being the bottom could potentially go out the window, and I will be willing to fall on my sword. Now, as of this point, we have been going sideways. We have been putting in higher lows, and we have, in fact, put in a bottom thus far. So our theory about the bottom being in has held for 5 months. Now, could that change? As you guys see right here, there is that potential if we get rejected. You know, the next level is to basically retest right here, the bottom of this blue zone, which is that $17,800 level. And the next stop, and, you know, I hate to break it to you guys, but we have this weekly close back here that happened around January 8th and the weeks of the 8th and the 15th of 2018. And, that could bring us back down here to around 16,250. Now, do I believe that that's going to happen? Well, guys, what I believe doesn't really matter. My opinion doesn't matter. Only the charts are what matters. But one thing that Michael Vandepop did point out is that he says the entire market is still consolidating, but eagerly awaiting for the highs to be tested. However, the open interest is still going through the roof. A lot of people are eagerly shorting the market right now, okay? Higher low needs to be established and then a significant breakout across markets. So just having a look at that open interest and considering that most people are going short right now, usually the majority tends to be wrong. And if you did watch my previous video, we had spoke about a potential fake out scenario where we do have a breakdown, right? And then maybe we do wick down and put in a lower low and everybody goes, oh, see, that's it, I told you, only to then have that fake out and spring back up to the upside. In fact, I want to show you something really quick. There was a fake out that we had way back here. Let me put this in log. And you could see right here, okay, right here back in this market, right here. So we had the bottom that was put in on January 15th. And, you could see at that point, Bitcoin kept putting in higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, higher lows. But right here, we had this crazy fake out where we actually did come lower than this area right here. So technically, the bottom had been in, right? If you ignore this wick right here, the bottom was in. But what did we have? We had this crazy fake out, and this is on the daily chart, guys. This happened in 1 day for Bitcoin. Look at this, 1 day. Bitcoin fell all the way down here. How much was that? About 37% in a day, only to spring back the next day and then to continue that consolidation before starting the massive bull market, right? So it is possible that we have a situation here where we say the bottom is in, we're calling the bottom, right? And then all of a sudden, we have this fake out where it actually goes lower than the previous bottom, but only just for 1 day. Just for 1 day. And then we continue. And that's where everybody gets caught off guard, right? That's where they, get stomped out of their positions because everybody's in a short. They think they're a genius. And then all of a sudden, what do? We bounce back up to the upside, right? So there is still that possibility, but you could still argue, even though, yes, we would put in technically a lower wick on the daily, you could still say that this bottom was in and that was the fake out, right? And remember, guys, if you are looking to trade, I know right now it's a little bit boring, but I do think there's going to be a lot of opportunities to arise, and you can get over $16,200 in bonuses just using the links below in the description, in the pinned comment. Of course, make sure that you are looking at the comment with the verified crypto zombie check. There are a lot of scammers down there, but if you guys are interested in those bonuses, check out the tutorial and bonuses popping up above. But let's talk about what is going on. We're going to get to the sovereign debt crisis in just a bit, but we are seeing something happen. Credit Suisse is planning to decimate its workforce and sell off key assets as the institution attempts to emerge from a period of financial distress. Not to mention the fact that Deutsche Bank is also being sued by an employee. But focusing on Credit Suisse, they're now seeking to streamline their operations to refinance themselves with fresh capital following a catalog of errors and prolonged period of financial crisis. To do that, the company will seek to break off and sell various assets while preserving its domestic banking operations. Now, some people are considering this to be something like the Lehman Brothers, which happened back in 2008, and we know what happened there, right? Although it was after that period, after that final shakeout, that we went on one of the most prosperous runs of the bull markets that we'd ever seen, right? Now, obviously, that had a lot to do with the Fed printing money. But what you have to understand is that their target of this 2% inflation is virtually impossible for them to get back down to. Maybe they get down to 3%. But what's going to happen is eventually they are going to force us into a recession. They're going to do this. They know that this is what they're going to do because right now they do not have enough reason to stop raising the rates. People are actually preparing for this. They're saving cash on the sidelines, right? We're not seeing unemployment go down yet. So it's kind of sick to say this out loud, but they want us to go into a recession. And then once they do start backing off, they probably won't start lowering rates until sometime next year. I guarantee you, we are going to see one of the biggest, most insane, massive bull runs that anyone has ever seen in history. And you could literally see Bitcoin hitting some of these crazy price targets. Now, I know a lot of people say Bitcoin's not going to go to 250K. It could never go to $1 million, nothing like that. Stick around and we're going to get to that in just a minute. But you could see that the tides are changing for Bitcoin. Jack Mack, a former CEO at the major U.S. headquartered investment bank Morgan Stanley, suggests that Bitcoin and crypto may become a part of an increasingly digitalized world of trading, and many of us may live to see it. Now, let's have a very interesting look at what is happening in the charts on chain. We've seen 121,000 Bitcoin, or roughly $2.4 billion at current prices, leaving the exchanges in the past 30 days. Now, maybe you're saying to yourself, well, maybe they're just scared with what happened with Celsius and Voyager, and maybe they're just taking their coins off the exchange for that reason, right? Well, historically speaking, we have seen that when we do see lots of Bitcoin leaving exchanges, it generally tends to mean that people are buying for the long term. They are buying at these prices because they are comfortable with these prices. Here's an example right down here, okay? You can see right here, Bitcoin bottomed out locally at around $18,000 when its outflows from exchanges reached about $68,000 on June 17th. The cryptocurrency's price rallied towards $24,500 in the following week. So it went from $18,000 to $24,500. Now, just to put this into perspective, this was only 68,000 Bitcoin. If we come up here, we have actually seen 121,000 Bitcoin. So this is more than double what we even saw back here. This is another reason why I'm saying we could see some volatility. Now, something that most people won't tell you, but it is very important to pay attention to, is that with these coins leaving the exchanges, this is actually making less liquidity on the exchange. And when you have less liquidity on the exchange, you have a very thin order book, which means you can actually push the price faster in either direction, up or down. But in this case, it suggests that we should ultimately see a move potentially to the upside. You can see right here, the accumulation trend score by cohort notes that the whales holding between 1,000 Bitcoin and 10,000 right here, guys, have been accumulating Bitcoin aggressively. This is not something I'm making up. This is not an opinion of mine. This is data that we can factually see on charts, and they've been doing this since late September. You can also see that whales on-chain behavior shows that they have recently withdrawn 15,700 Bitcoin from exchanges, which is the largest outflow since 2022, June of 2022 this year, right? So that is what we need to be paying attention to. Here's another thing we can look at. This was by Carl B. Menger. The Bitcoin supply that was moved in just the last 6 months is approaching all-time lows, currently at around 18.12% of circulating supply. Historically, very low volumes of mobile supply typically occur after prolonged bear markets, which is telling us that we could be entering the very last phase of this bear market, because what we're seeing is these coins are leaving exchanges, right? And then what we're seeing on the flip side is that we're not seeing these Bitcoins moving. This is telling us, if you put the puzzle together, that people are buying Bitcoin at these prices. They are taking the Bitcoin off the exchanges, probably putting them in cold storage, and they're not moving them. They are holding them for the long term. So where are we going with this? Well, I want to reintroduce us back to Larry Lepard. Fix the money, fix the world, he says, right? He was on an interview, and I've actually never seen this channel before, Quoth the Raven. So, shout out to Quoth the Raven. Hopefully, with your permission, sir, if you're watching, I can share this amazing video, a podcast that you had. And what he talks about is how Bitcoin can actually go to prices that we can't even imagine. I've always said Bitcoin can go to 1 million. Some people think I'm crazy when I say that, right? Some people think that 100,000 is too high, 250,000 is too high. But when you look at the sovereign debt crisis and you see what is actually truly happening, it is really, really shocking. So what I want to do first is start with the fun part. I want to start off with Larry's potential price target for Bitcoin. And then I want to discuss a little bit more.
To me, and what we're seeing is that the governments are proving that they're incapable of managing our monetary systems. That's the big picture. It's a sovereign debt crisis. And so what you need, in my opinion, to own are assets that the governments don't print and don't control. And Bitcoin, gold, and silver are 3 assets that meet that test. Real estate does too. The only issue with real estate is that they can tax it and you can't really move it. It's not particularly liquid. So, look, people are sniffing this thing out, Chris. I mean, we are in a sovereign debt crisis. We are in a currency crisis. And, I'm not suggesting anyone should take all of their money and dump it into these things. But what I am suggesting is very strongly that anybody who doesn't have some position in these things is taking more risk than they need to take because of the upside optionality. I mean, Bitcoin could go to 0, but I personally think Bitcoin's going to go up 100x. So, if you take 1% of your net worth,
so you think Bitcoin will go to 2 million?
Yeah, easily.
What time frame?
If you take 5 years, 5-6 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You got to look at the math. I'm not kidding you. But look, if my view is if you put 1% of your net worth in it, or 2% or some small number in it, if you lost it, your life doesn't change. But if it goes up 10 to 100x, that's going to be a meaningful impact on your portfolio.
Right.
And I think if the further you get into it, the more you really understand what it is. Look, the price is down. We've just had an enormous correction, and even in that, we're seeing growth in all the usage metrics. They're all going up.
Wow, that is absolutely incredible. A $2 million Bitcoin potentially in the next 5 to 6 years. And this isn't just some willy-nilly prediction. We're talking about somebody who successfully shorted the 2008 financial crisis, who was there during the dot-com boom, who has made a lot of money successfully trading and investing. So next, he goes on to explain why Bitcoin.
How do you price Bitcoin?
Okay, that's a great question. So think about it this way. It's a commodity. That's the SEC's called it a commodity, okay? Mm-hmm. It's a commodity, but it's a commodity that does not respond to price pressure. So, there are only going to be so many of them. So it's a deflationary commodity in a sense. There will only be so many. Here's the way I keep it really simple. Is demand growing? Are dogs eating food? Are more people using it to make payments, remittances, store money, whatever it might be? Are more people using it? Answer that question, yes. I can show you 5 charts, all kinds of different statistics. Okay, is the supply fixed? Yes. What has to happen to the price? Fixed supply, more people using it, it has to go up. You've got a growing mass of people who want it. And so what I watch the adoption rate. And as long as the adoption rate is growing, the argument is sound. And for adoption rate, let's go a level further. I watch use cases. What are people using it for? One of the great use cases, no one's really focusing on this, but one of the great use cases these days is remittances overseas. You live in Guatemala, you're poor. You send one of your relatives to Texas to be a domestic. They work their ass off. They make a couple $100s a month. They want to send it back to help their folks. They go to the Western Union, and between the Western Union and the bodega, that you're getting the money out of. They manage to rip you off for between 20 and 30% of what your relative earned, right? Okay, now it's a new world. You've got a couple $100 Android phone. You live in Guatemala. You actually have cell network because, they jumped all over. They skipped the landline, okay? You've got your relative in Texas, and you've got a Mun wallet. They've got a Mun wallet. They basically send you $200 for less than a penny, okay? That's a legitimate use case, and it's happening, and more people are doing that. In Africa, in Nigeria, 20% of the people are transacting in Bitcoin. I mean, they're skipping the traditional bank network. I mean, and that kind of thing, and that's just one. I mean, there are tons of others. And so my point is the stuff has utility. And all this is, by the way, this is all based on the Lightning Network. Before the Lightning Network came along, the criticism that Bitcoin was too slow and too expensive for everyday trading is absolutely true. Did not work. Okay, it was just a store of value way of working. But Lightning changes the entire game. It also, by the way, Chris, and you'll like this, it makes it's impossible to track Lightning because they open and close channels very quickly. And so it makes it completely anonymous. So going to your question about, well, can't the government screw it up? Well, okay, couple things. One, we've got senators and congressmen who are in favor of it. Two, Gary Gensler, who runs the SEC, has said it's a commodity. And so my sense is they've admitted that it exists. There was a time when they could have killed it. It was 5 or 10 years ago. But it's too late. It's out of the horse is out of the barn.
But I know what you're saying. This is way too optimistic. We get it. This is just totally one-sided, K-Dub. You are the crypto zombie. You obviously care about Bitcoin. What about the low price target? Well, he does actually go in to talk about what he could see for the lower possible end of the price move, and it somewhat coincides around the area that we've also spoke about. So I want to play that part just to be completely objective.
There is a case that,
Right.
and I said this on Palisades Gold Radio like 6 months ago when I was talking about how crypto needed to basically have an Armageddon, which I still don't think has happened, but I think is in the process of happening. I think we're still going to see more failures, but with Celsius imploding, with the questions looming about Tether, with all of these altcoins going to zero, it is possible for that to just literally be, the malinvestment in the space being wiped out and Bitcoin will persist. That is a possibility. That doesn't, just because Celsius blows up doesn't mean Bitcoin's going to do it. I mean, Celsius was taking inordinate risks and, was essentially a Ponzi scheme.
Those are all really apples and oranges. I mean, the thing you got to understand, Bitcoin's a technological development. Those things were all just shitcoins and promotes. And you're right, though, that if Tether blows up and some more of those blow up, I mean, I have a downside case on Bitcoin. I think there's some possibility we'll see 14,000. Not highly likely, but possible. And if we do, I'm going to back up the truck. But in turn,
you think it's possible that? Say that again.
Well, I think it's possible that we'll see $14,000 a coin. If we have another March 20 event, and the correlation, everything goes to zero, and everybody has to sell everything. Bitcoin, I don't think it goes below 14. That's kind of 78%.
What if Tether goes?
Same. That could do it. That could definitely do it.
I would buy Bitcoin if Tether blew up.
Any of those things could do it. I'm not saying they will happen, but they could. Yeah. I mean, my advice has always been the dollar cost average. I mean, I use Swan. They're great. They're the best. I mean, they're going to become the E-Trade for Bitcoin, in my opinion, the Swan Bitcoin. And, I buy some every week. Doesn't matter what the price is. I have a set amount. They take the money out of my bank account. Simple. Service is great. I mean, and that's what I think everybody should be doing. I think everybody should be saving some of their money in Bitcoin because this is the other thing that helps me to understand it, Chris, I think, and why I feel so strong about it. I was in the internet back in the day, and this reminds me so much of the internet. I mean, Krugman saying it's a fax machine, and I mean, it's just, there's so much skepticism, but goddamn, the thing's working, and the dogs are eating the food. Yeah. And it's like, I kind of feel like eventually everybody's going to own some Bitcoin. I mean, they don't know it yet, but they're going to.
Yeah, you might be right. You might be right.
So
that would prove me wrong. And I have, a small amount of Bitcoin.
Well, there you go.
But that's all you need. Not so small that a 100x wouldn't be impactful.
Well, that's the point. Therein lies the point, right?
Right.
Therein lies the point.
So you have to admit at this point, it might be irresponsible not to to actually own some Bitcoin, right? And look, guys, it's not just happening in third world countries. It's not just, Venezuela who's using Lightning Network. You could see right here that even the Walmart CTO in USA believes that cryptocurrencies will become a major disruptor in payments and intends to position the world's largest company by revenue accordingly. Kumar said he is working to streamline the use of cryptocurrencies for customers whom he said will eventually be able to use crypto at Walmart's online stores. Kumar stressed that the emerging technology will not only revolutionize payments, but could also facilitate a change in the way customers interact with consumer products. So we are seeing a massive change, guys, and this is the shift. This is the calm before the storm. And I understand, that it might get a little crazy. We might get some volatility. Nevertheless, as you guys can see here, though, still after 5 months, we are holding the 89 EMA. Bitcoin, every time we dip below around 18,200, it has been an excellent opportunity for buying. So, is it possible that we go lower? Maybe you can try to catch that crash. Maybe you can try to catch that wick. But as I showed you, it usually doesn't last that long. I personally believe that we are at the bottom. We have bottomed, or you know what? Maybe we get that scam wick to the downside. Maybe we do have that fake out like we did in the bear market from 2 years ago. But I still think that this is an amazing opportunity to buy Bitcoin. And considering where the price could go, and considering that it literally could end up being a world reserve currency in our lifetime, I think it would be quite foolish not to maybe just have a small asset allocation to it, right? So thank you so much for coming back to the channel. You guys rock. You're the reason that I make these videos. I love you. Have a great day. And of course, if you do want to trade, make sure that you check out my tutorials popping up right here, right now. I do believe my BitGet one is the best one on the internet. So yeah, that's it, guys. Have a safe day. Like I said, big move coming soon. And ultimately, if you can just be patient and sit in it, I think you're going to do just fine. So that's it for me today, guys. Thank you for coming back. My name is K-Dub. This is Crypto Zombie. Until next time, stay crypto. And of course, peace out.